So, good morning, everyone. Oh, it's loud. Welcome to this session on cities of tomorrow. My name is Pirita Lindholm. I'm from ERIN. I have the pleasure to moderate this session. So, cities, they are at the front line of Europe's green and digital transformations. Cities and regions are the places where policies are put into practice, buildings are renovated, industries are decarbonized, and circular solutions deployed and scaled. These are also in those places where the innovation ecosystem, so universities, industry, startups, citizens come together to develop, implement, and test different solutions and policies. And yet, we see that cities and regions are not yet well, I would say, represented in all the Brussels discussions, even though they are working very hard on the ground to actually implement those solutions. So if we look at, for example, these days in the Brussels bubble, the developments of the competitiveness compass initiatives like the Green Industrial Deal or Circular Economy Act, or the current discussions going on the future multi-annual financial framework and the long-term EU budget, the cities and regions are not really around the table, and yet their participation is absolutely essential if we want to further innovate, if we want to ensure that those innovations are also systemic and embedded on the ground. And circularity is a perfect example. Circularity is not only about reducing waste, it's really about resilience, prosperity, and industrial leadership. And the cities are already showing how circularity and the climate agendas are coming together and how we can create competitive advantages with those solutions. At ERIN, we believe and we see that cities and regions are key players in the transition, and in our recent paper that we developed on connected regional innovation ecosystems, we were arguing that Europe's future competitiveness is very much depending on how we tap into those local powers and how we can also link and connect local and regional assets across Europe. So today we are here with a number of mayors to discuss and show their practical experiences on this. So I'm very happy to welcome here Thomas Häyry, Mayor of Vaasa from Finland, who's paired with the rector of the University of Vaasa, Minna Martikainen. And then we have Thomas van Oppens, Deputy Mayor from Leuven in Belgium, and finally Adelina Paula Pinto, who's a Deputy Mayor in Guimarães in Portugal. So together we will share with you some examples of how circularity can help cities to move towards climate neutrality and make those local ecosystems drive systemic change. So I will go right into my questions and start with the Deputy Mayor Thomas van Oppens. So Leuven is really a front runner when it comes to climate neutrality. How is your work on circularity supporting those climate neutrality goals? And if you could give us one concrete example of that.
Yeah, when we started out and we said we want to become a climate neutral city, circularity was not in our scope because we said we need to go to zero on scope 1 and 2 emissions made in Leuven itself. And so when we looked at the numbers, we said, okay, 3/4 of our CO2 emissions stem from the built environment. So we need to focus on renovation, implementing green heating and stuff like that, building new buildings, better buildings, etc. And it's true, if we would just do that, then we would be a lot better in scope 1 and 2. But then we realized to do that, we need a lot of new materials, and a lot of materials will go onto being demolished. And realizing that, we realized that, okay, maybe the circularity of things, reusing materials, is not impacting our scope 1 and 2 emissions on our own soil, but on the European level, the building the buildings industry is responsible for about 40% of CO2 emissions. Ignoring that would be a mistake that we would make. So we realized we should also focus on circularity. And to give you one example on what we did is we made a materials bank, especially for building materials. And the materials bank started about 4 years ago, very small. We were able to recuperate 20 tons of materials and take that from existing buildings that were being torn down and reuse that in new buildings. Last year, we were able to reuse 250 tons of materials, and in about 2 years, we expect to do thousands, and in 2030, we expect to do 8,000. That's an exponential growth in materials being reused on a very local scale, and with big impact on climate CO2 impact, but also on material needs from our city.
Very good, an excellent concrete example. Let me now turn to Thomas Häuri from Vaasa. Your city is very known about a great, strong industrial partnership with you and industry. How has circularity helped you to build regional resilience and climate neutrality in practice? We can hear from you as well, an example.
Thank you. To start with, I have to state that Vaasa has the ambition to be climate neutral by 2030, so it's a very high ambition for us, and we are working very tightly together with the industries and the universities to achieve this. Of course, one small example of what, and very concrete example of what we are doing. So from the bio-waste that we gather from the whole city and the region, we take out the methane and use it in our public transport. That's one example of circular economy. But on a systemic level, I come from a city where we have the strongest energy tech cluster in the whole of the Nordics. So we have a lot of energy tech companies there. And together with the biggest companies, we sit down and look at the energy system on a systemic level. Because every time you produce energy or you use energy, there are side streams born. And these side streams can, in a systemic view, be taken into use in another part of the energy system. And that is something that we are now looking at, how we can use the sector coupling in this energy system on a systemic level.
Very good. And now moving to Guimarães, to Adelina Paula Pinto. You will be European Green Capital next year in 2026. So looking at your work on circularity and climate neutrality, how does a success look like for you in 2030 or even going beyond towards 2050?
Okay, well, Guimarães will be, it's a pleasure, it was improbable that a city, a small city in the north of Portugal, can be European Green Capital. But we will be Green Capital. So we want to inspire other cities that it's possible to work. And it's possible to have this mission. And we are also one of 100 mission cities to neutrality in 2030. And the circularity and all the programs about green transitions we are working very hard. It's the priority, it's the focus of the political level, but it's not only the political level, because you can't do green transition only with a political. We can believe that, but we can't do that alone. So the big problem is to convince our citizens to do differently. And the circular economy, we made in Guimarães a lot of measures. We work with university, we have a strong textile industry, and we have to work with them because they have a lot of waste, so it's possible to do to circular economy, but we have to work with even each industrial, each owner of industry, each people. And in Guimarães, we also believe that if we have to change the people, because circular economy, it's not only what we can do in the big way, that's what the citizens can do in their life, in the way they look for the world, and they look to the earth, and they have to know that it's not possible to do what we are doing now. And this is very difficult for the municipalities, and my colleagues know, because we have elections, the people looks to houses that we built, the people looks how streets, how many streets you have done, if we do a theater, wherever, you know, all about material thing. So in Portugal, we have mandate for 4 years, and after 4 years of our government, we have elections. So most of the politicals don't want to this green transition because they didn't give our votes, okay? It's not elected. So that's why we have to work with the citizens, with all the citizens, with this participation, because they have to believe this is more important than every other street or another theater, because it's the city of tomorrows. And most of the municipalities work the cities of today. So they reacted and not thinking about tomorrow.
This, very good. This leads quite nicely to my next questions, actually, because often we also see that cities struggle to move from individual projects also to a more systemic solutions, and this is also came already with some of your responses. However, of course, if we really want to embed the circularity, climate neutrality in our work, we have to make sure that they are part of local policies. And just as a side note, it was nice to hear from you previously that actually all the cities have been green leaf cities. So of course now Kimeres will be a green capital, but everyone has done really hard work on the green transition area. But let me move to Leuven again a little bit, because Leuven has the Leuven 2030, which has become quite a well-known cooperation network. And maybe you could tell us a bit how this partnership model helps you to mobilize all their stakeholders, your ecosystem, and drive a systemic change in your city.
Yeah, thank you for that question, because indeed, as my colleagues have said, you need to involve civilians, you need to involve companies, and we realized at a very early stage in Leuven that it's impossible that we could do this as a government alone. So we made an organization that is governed not only by the city, but also companies, knowledge institutions, and citizens. And together, they try to decide what we should do on climate, because we know we can only do this together. And from there on, we made a climate contract that was signed by all the different companies that have participated, the governments, the knowledge institutions, with projects that we are going to do, with things that we're committed to, and we keep going from there. And it makes a whole world of difference, because if I can come back to my previous example, the materials bank, then yeah, it's very hard to start a materials bank without any connections, but now all these partners who are in that program say, okay, we're going to use a materials bank. When we renovate a building, when we tear something down, when we make a new building, we try to maximize circularity, and we use the materials bank for this program, and that's only possible because of the cooperation that such growth is possible. And so I think that's a very important lesson to take away, that you cannot do this as a government alone, not only locally, but also on a European level. We got a lot of help. Becoming Green Leaf, getting the Green Leaf Award in 2018 helped us out, and also made those companies and those citizens believe that what we're doing is right and correct, by Europe seeing us as these leaders in the green transition.
Very good, and a bit continuing on this collaboration and also with industry and universities. So going back to you, Thomas, on the Vaasa example. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more of how this collaboration is actually happening in practice.
Yeah, when we make up these regional development programs, we always take in the stakeholders, we take in the industry, we take in the universities, we look at our strategies and where our strategies align, and then we choose those areas where we want to cooperate and bring the change forward. So that's one of the very big movements. What we are doing also, so a concrete example of this, the city of Vaasa and the city of Umeå owns a ferry line that traffics between Finland and Sweden, Vaasa and Umeå, and that actually together with the companies, we have now developed it to be a genuine green marine corridor. Why is this important and why does this have a systemic point of view? Because through the technology that we have developed together with the industries, we are now ready to face also and to make the whole shipping in Europe much more greener than it is today. So that's one example of how we work together.
Very good. That also gives a nice example of how you collaborate with other cities and other cities across borders. Following on that, I will go back to you, Minna Martikainen from the university. So maybe you can give, from your perspective, some insights of how the university contributes to the work in Vaasa, and how you are bringing, advancing the circularity and climate neutrality in the city.
First of all, I have to say that this requires like a constant strategic co-work and value creation. So it doesn't happen over the night or not even a few years. So our collaboration with the city, it has been continuing already for years and in a strategic level. For us as a university, it means that we build our whole strategic triangle around it, that Vaasa is one of the main Nordic energy areas. And then for us it means that we have to be good and world-class in those research areas. So our strategy, we have energy transition, sustainable business and sustainable societies. And this is actually what this energy cluster needs. And that makes us a specific university. But then it requires in practical level that we see that this cooperation is happening. So we do that, integrate our researchers with the stakeholders, ecosystem and companies in research projects, and then co-work. Our university faculties, our aim is to do the high-class research, and then basically see that we publish like the universities are supposed to be doing. And at the same time see that collaboration is exactly what companies and stakeholders need. And this is kind of co-creation, deep project. One example for us is that we have the project of like co-doc. It means that we educate doctoral students, PhDs, together with the companies. And they are the university level doctorates then, but they co-work in the projects what companies need and take R&D in companies further.
Very good. I also like how you are emphasizing the importance of tackling, in a way, of course, the energy technology perspective, but also the society. Because at the end, it's about people, so all those things need to come together. Then going back to Adelina, actually I'm continuing a little bit on this because now we were talking about educations, and you've been also working quite a bit on investing on stakeholder engagement, but also programs, raising awareness, building skills and local talent. So can you maybe give us an example of how you have involved the citizens, or how you have managed to build these right skills in your city?
Yes, participation is fundamental, and the education is our baseline. I am the vice mayor and I am the deputy mayor for education, and I really believe that education is crucial. So we began exactly about education. We have a strong program, it's Pegadas, and it goes to every school, every student in Guimarães, since kindergarten to secondary school, they have access to this program about biodiversity, about climate change, about circular economy. So they work a lot because we think that the young people, our students, they change their mind and they help us to change the mind of the father, the mother, the grandfather, whatever. So we work a lot with that. And with the university, we have in Guimarães University of Minho, we need two things. And we have here scientists, a lot of universities. First, the university must be an ecosystem about green transition, you know, because we qualified there our best, our talent people. They are going to our cities to work in our industries, in our municipalities, wherever. So that has to be a green ecosystem focused in sustainability, in green transition, in this kind of things. And the other, that the university must help the industry, as Vasa says, but also with the municipality, with the citizens, to do best. So the importance of the research, the investigation, and the innovation in these areas. And I think this is easy to do, because we have thinking about biodiversity, about engineer, about new forms of architecture, and they are thinking really about circular economy, so this is most easy. It's difficult to do that in the city, really, to go out of the university. So we have to pretend it before, you know? And the second is how to involve other disciplines, how we involve communication. It's very, very important. The university helps the municipalities to communicate, because we have to do a strong force of communication to the citizens, but also about the sociology, because we have to work with the communities. How can we work? How can we go to each one of the communities? So it's very, very important. And Guimarães, will be green capital, because we work a lot with this kind, with university, and they start a lot of innovation, and we put them in Guimarães, and then we can escalate it for other cities. So it's very important to do a few things. Most of the part they are not so important, because they are there in the small school or in the small village, but they change their minds. And after that, we can escalate, and it's normal. So no one put waste that don't recycle, because it's normal. So they recycle, or they don't have waste some products that can be to circular economy, or about energy with the industry. So this is the beginning, and we have to put our force all in that.
Very good. So now we heard quite a lot of examples from what happens in the cities, but let me bring the discussion a bit to the EU level and to the current discussions on the future long-term budget, on the discussions that are quite a bit also a bit maybe centralized in EU, looking at not always of the importance of the local and regional dimension. So I would like to hear from you if you would have a chance to request one enabling measure that would help you to continue in your work towards green transition, make it systematic, and so on. What would be your question or your request to the EU level, or to addressing multi-level governance? So let me go on a row like this. So I start with you, Thomas.
Thank you. I have. Oh no, I think my wait. Let's see. Does this work? Hello. Yes. I have a lot of suggestions, but if I have to choose only one, I would say...
Maybe two, we have a few minutes.
Yeah, look at the ETS system and think about how it can be taken into broader use in the cities. Because I've seen many examples by us locally where the emission trading system actually drives the change and can be really good business for those who are technological forerunners. So this is something I would really take a broader scope on. The other thing, the bonus answer is, of course, you have to be very fast in putting the Letta and the Draghi reports into effect. Because at the moment, when we are looking at the energy systems, and for example, energy storage, the Chinese are taking really a hard position today, and Europe needs to act on this. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Minna, go ahead.
Yes, I would say that we need simply more financing tools where different stakeholders meet. Let me tell in practice. We do joint research, for instance, in one city area in the smart grids, Sundom Smart Grids research project. When stakeholders like city, companies and academics meet, there are very few EU financing tools, and especially if it requires infrastructure, then it seems to be that no one really wants to own this view. So we need more tools where different stakeholders meet. This way we can make stronger academia, but also to have an instant impact to companies and to the environment and different stakeholders. And for that question, for Anonymous, I would say how to convince critical citizens. It is education. We need to talk more. We need to have more research to also to do how to do it in the societal level and teach.
Very good. Then Thomas.
Yes. At first, I want to agree with Thomas, not because he has the same first name as me, but also because he's very right, and I want to take it even a step further. There is no better place to be a consumer than in the EU. Consumers are so well protected, and we are so busy with maintaining welfare that we sometimes forget the consequences of what we are doing. Today, there are so many cheap products on the market, Temu, Shein, but also gas is super cheap, and we're forgetting that. But because that gas is super cheap, and ETS2 plays an important role in changing that, ETS1 as well, but definitely towards consumers. But we need to go further, because first we thought we need to think about this due to climate change, but today as well, because of our geopolitical situation. Do we want to be this dependent on other countries? Definitely nations like Russia and the US. In my opinion, I do not think so. But transitioning away from this will not be painless. And we need to take a step back and not only think, oh, how are we going to protect all the consumers? Of course, we need to protect the most vulnerable amongst the consumers. But we need to think about what is the consequence of the way that we are consuming today? What is the consequence of our dependence on gas and oil? And thinking about this must make us say, okay, wait a second, we need to invest not just a little bit, not just tax some things a little bit, but push people away from gas and oil in a very fast way. Because if we don't do this right now, right here, and start investing heavily in the alternatives, then we will see the consequences in a very short term, because we are today financing the war in Ukraine. And I do not think we should do that any longer.
Very good. And Adelina, your
Yes.
suggestions.
Yes, I subscribe all of my colleagues, but I think that UA has to believe that the green transition has to begin in local. You know, it's local from global. So they have to believe more in the cities, in the power of the cities, and the finance of the cities. Most of the small cities have big problems to access to finance some projects. And we need in each cities a multidisciplinary team, very well capacity to these things about green transition. So it's necessary that, and it's necessary funds to do this work with universities, to have doctors, to work about some innovation. So they have to invest in local to promote this local ecosystem, and then go to another level.
Very good. I think that summarized it quite nicely in a sense that we have to start local. Most of you emphasizing the importance of having support for bringing the ecosystem together. And of course, it's not only necessarily of bringing the ecosystem together in one place, but also connecting that with other places that allows us to boost innovation, to also boost competitiveness. I think this is really essential so that we don't have individual solutions somewhere. It is with this ecosystem approach, we can really embed also the solutions into systemic changes at local level. And as a background, maybe I wanted to highlight the Circular Cities and Regions initiative that has helped cities and regions to work on circularity, but also the mission on climate neutral and smart cities and the mission on climate adaptation that have also been useful tools for really boosting this research and innovation and the ecosystem thinking at local and regional level. So with these words, I think we are out of time. I would like to invite you all to thank our excellent speakers and continue your great R&I days. Thank you.